Good Thursday morning, everybody. I'm Dave Furtado.
And I'm meteorologist Jefferson Donovan.
And welcome to KEPR Quick, your latest local news and weather commercial free in about 23 minutes or less. We're going to jump right over to weather because, Jefferson, we have some red flag warnings that are going into effect today. Why is that?
Yeah, we are going to see some gusty winds sweep across the forecast area. That is why we have the red flag warnings. Gusty winds and continued dry weather conditions. In terms of raw wind speeds, we're not going to see terribly strong winds anywhere aside from the Kittitas Valley today, but we are going to be looking at those just generic breezy winds with continued dry weather conditions. We've seen a number of small vegetation fires. Of course, we have the big fires burning in the Cascades. So just to be on the safe side, we do have those red flag warnings for today. And of course, we'll talk about that later on in this YouTube show. Now, there are going to be cooler temperatures arriving tomorrow with lighter wind on Friday, and then some rain showers are going to be possible come Monday. We'll talk more about all three of these weather headlines coming up.
Thanks, Jefferson. We begin this morning in the Tri-Cities. The off-duty Washington State Trooper accused of killing a motorcyclist in a drunk driving crash earlier this year appeared in court yesterday for the first time in nearly 7 months. KEPR's Aidan Whitaker was there and has the details.
Trooper Sarah Clasen appeared in court for the first time since her arrest back in March immediately following the crash. Today, Clasen pled not guilty and was released again without bail and without any alcohol monitors for her or her car.
Can I call my arraignment, Your Honor?
Yes, please. One second.
Number 78, Clasen.
Charged with vehicular homicide, Washington State Trooper Sarah Clasen appears in court accused of driving drunk and killing 20-year-old motorcyclist Jose Sanchez while she was off-duty driving her own car.
We will waive a formal reading and enter a plea of not guilty.
The court has reviewed the affidavit of probable cause. Do you find probable cause for the matter to proceed?
Benton County Superior Court Judge Joseph Burrows heard from the prosecutor and Clasen's attorney before deciding to release Clasen without bail or any monitoring devices.
Do you have a position on the alcohol monitoring device pursuant to RCW 4661-5022?
No, Your Honor. The state does not have a position on that.
Clasen will be required to stay within Washington and Arizona, where she reportedly has family. She is not allowed to have any alcohol, and she also can't contact witnesses or the Sanchez family.
There are no other conditions you'd like the court to consider?
Your Honor, at this time, that is the conditions the state has proffered.
This case has been pending for 6 months, and my client has had no conditions during those 6 months and has faithfully followed basically what's in front of the court. I think that there's been demonstrated compliance with the fact that she's no threat to community safety.
After hearing from both attorneys, Judge Burrows followed the agreed-upon recommendation and allowed Clasen to leave without bail. The family of Jose Sanchez were in the front row while Clasen stood before the judge, and they expressed the frustration that many have throughout this case about how long the process has been.
Have you guys heard from the prosecutor at all? I think I saw that they weren't communicating with you very well. Have they talked to you at all since then?
No.
Still, the family's focus remains on Jose.
His life was valuable, and he meant a lot to us, and justice needs to be served.
The Spokane County Prosecutor's Office is handling the case. Benton County handed it off to avoid any conflicts. Clasen's blood samples, which were taken on the night of the crash, returned a blood alcohol level of 0.17, which is more than double the legal limit of 0.08. Clasen's next court date has been set for October 22nd.
KEPR's Aidan Whitaker, thank you. And following the hearing, we caught up with a criminal law expert to get his reaction.
When it came to what I suspected for this particular case, and again, this isn't because of any concerns over bias or anything like that. For this case, it kind of went as I expected. So one of those things that's not necessarily surprising, certainly rarer than the typical, and not necessarily, due to any kind of bad thing, but it's always good to have healthy skepticism.
Now, more details on yesterday's hearing, as well as the full video, can be found up on our website, KEPRTV.com. In Yakima County, a Toppenish woman is being sentenced for her role in a kidnapping at a since-closed Toppenish motel. 37-year-old Kathleen Ardith Albert pled guilty to aiding assault with a dangerous weapon in connection to an incident in May 2024, where people were held at gunpoint at the El Corral Motel in Toppenish. Albert was purchasing drugs from another woman when she was taken to another room, handed a gun, and told to hold people in that room hostage. Now, she did not pull out or use the gun, but did use drugs during the incident. No one was harmed, and Albert was ordered 5 years on probation. And the U.S. Marshals Service reports Travis Decker, the man wanted for the murders of his 3 young daughters, is dead. But the Chelan County Sheriff says not so fast, as human remains and clothing are still being tested for Decker's DNA. KOMO's Jackie Kent spoke with the sheriff about what's next in the case.
The U.S. Marshals Service in this new court filing claims Travis Decker is dead. This comes days after the Chelan County Sheriff announced search crews found human remains and clothing that could be tied to the former Army Ranger, accused of murdering his 3 young girls, Peyton, Evelyn, and Olivia.
So I am confirming the shirt that we saw on scene is a match for what Travis was last seen wearing, in addition to shorts.
The federal agency stated it was hopeful by what search crews gathered on Grindstone Mountain at about 4,000 feet.
It's the 1 yard line. I mean, we want to get across the goal line with the DNA, but we're pretty, it's a good feeling. We've put a lot of work. I mean, hundreds of people in law enforcement and other career fields have touched this case.
Potential closure to what's been a months-long search for the 32-year-old father after officials located the sisters' bodies at a campground near Leavenworth, not far from Decker's truck. This filing is a motion to dismiss the federal case against Decker and quash the arrest warrant. It reads, the United States Marshals Service has advised the defendant Travis Caleb Decker is deceased. But over the phone, Sheriff Mike Morrison tells KOMO News he believes the information given in the filing was premature. Echoing his remarks from days earlier, he adds investigators are still awaiting DNA results from State Patrol's crime lab.
Till that time, we're going to stand by and wait for the 100% confirmation.
Chief Deputy Marshal Gavin Duffy clarifies U.S. Marshals are not in the business of declaring people dead, admitting the agency was too quick with this filing and will stand by until the Sheriff's Office announces DNA findings.
KOMO's Jackie Kent, thank you. The Chelan County coroner says while other agencies may state that the remains are Decker's based on circumstantial evidence, his office has yet to confirm ID through DNA, fingerprints, dental, or skeletal radiographs or visual ID. Results from the DNA testing could be out in a few days, but the coroner warns even if they get that DNA confirmation, they might never know the cause or manner of death. A Tri-Cities-based urgent care clinic will pay nearly $2.8 million to settle claims it overbilled Medicare and Medicaid. Federal prosecutors with the Eastern District of Washington say Health First Urgent Care, which has locations in Richland and Pasco, broke up panel tests, charging for each piece instead of billing for the test as a whole. They also allege Health First billed for more expensive tests that weren't medically necessary, including cases where patients only showed COVID-19 symptoms. The settlement resolves the case without the clinics admitting wrongdoing. And sticking in some health news, Franklin County is cutting ties with a longstanding agreement that helped fund critical human services shared with Benton County, such as those at risk of homelessness. KEPR's Alan Lester has the details.
On September 10th, Franklin County Commissioners voted not to renew a shared human services contract with Benton County, a deal that had been in place since 2020, but had roots spanning a decade plus.
I think the real issue is they just believe that the cost is going up significantly, and no matter how we try to explain it, they still just believe that. And I can't change that explanation, but it is what it is. It's the same percentages, the same amounts, everything's the same.
Franklin County had been contributing roughly $5,000 a month, with Benton County absorbing the rest through state and federal grants. Benton officials say they weren't asking for more, except in rare liability cases. Franklin County leaders say talks are still underway and not all the facts are being presented.
There's a huge misnomer out there that if that agreement went away, that like all of a sudden all of the services would go away, which is just patently false. I look at it is that we've got a great opportunity in front of us, but it's going to take people, again, not just devolving into finger pointing.
Benton County says it will continue supporting vulnerable families at least through June 2026, when they anticipate a transition to be completed.
I just don't want to see something where things come to an abrupt stop and people lose their homes or end up, falling out of their programs that keep them being productive members of society. We want to keep those going and have a reasonable transition.
While both counties try to minimize disruption, the impacts down the road remain uncertain.
Right now, I think nobody's going to lose anything, but time will tell.
Reporting from the Tri-Cities, I'm Alan Lester, KEPR Action News.
Keepers Alan Lester, thank you. And in some education news this morning, Mapton's Middle and High School will reopen to students on December 1st. That's according to an update from Superintendent Elise Mengarelli. Currently, construction crews are working on various issues with their middle and high school, specifically with the HVAC system. All students in the district are currently being taught at Arts Fox Elementary School. Now, the day of December 1st, though, ensures that essential systems, including heating, cooling, and airflow, will be fully functional without concern. And we continue following the Naches Library as it's gained some clarity following a recent Yakima Valley Libraries meeting. Although the existing contract will conclude soon, Naches will get at least one more year to keep its library open. KEPR's Anissa Williams tells us more.
After we were slightly confused and we had to talk and debrief with each other and the board members before we knew what answer that we got. And now we're excited and relieved that we found out we get a year to keep our library and continue the fight to keep it open.
Yakima Valley Libraries voted to terminate the current contract at the end of 2025, but they're offering the town of Naches a one-year agreement for 2026. That deal includes a $55,000 price tag covering the annexation amount, which is already paid by other contract cities. In a written statement, YVL Executive Director Candelaria Mendoza said, "We are optimistic that we will be able to find common ground and provide Naches the time they need to continue to work with their community and us." That work is already underway, led by more than 50 community members who are part of the grassroots Friends of Naches Library Coalition.
We already have our grant coordinator who has a list that we can start applying to once we become a 501(c) or 4.
We've also kind of reached out to local foundations, not just on the national and state level, but people that are just in the community. And we have had several people reach out saying that they'd be willing to help fund this library.
YVL says groups like these have played a critical role in keeping other rural branches afloat, including in Union Gap and Buena, and they're hopeful Naches can do the same. But if Naches can't commit to the long-term cost by fall 2026, the library could close.
It would be devastating, but I don't think we'd stop fighting. I think, for me, I'd find a way to make a library.
It's more than just a library. For those of you who haven't attended libraries, there's so many amazing things that come with it. There's story time for your kids, there's arts and crafts. We have elderly coming in for knitting clubs. It's just a plethora of knowledge and friendship, and I hope that everyone out there really uses their libraries before they're all gone, because we do not want that to happen.
KEPR's Anissa Williams, thank you. And a new contract with these terms must be approved by the Naches Town Council and submitted to YVL by October 24th. In the meantime, though, the Friends of the Naches Library Coalition will continue fundraising and organizing efforts ahead of the key public forum on September 30th. And with that, let's jump right over to meteorologist Jefferson Donovan to talk the weather for today. Folks may want to be able to get out the door today to get anything done. Maybe it's yard work or even wanting to curl up under a tree to read a book.
Sure.
You might want to grab like a binder clip to make sure the wind doesn't blow the pages around, though.
Yeah, especially if you're going out later in the day. Early in the day, wind shouldn't be really a factor for anybody aside from the Kittitas Valley. But as we get towards the later afternoon hours, that is when those winds are going to increase. Before we talk about the winds, let's talk about the temperatures for today. It is going to be another warm day around eastern Washington and northeast Oregon as high temperatures do climb into the 80s. We will likely see highs into the mid 80s in the Tri-Cities today. Look for low to mid 80s for the Yakima Valley today. Temperatures are going to be much cooler in the low to mid 70s in the Kittitas Valley this afternoon, with daytime highs in the low to mid 80s for the Blue Mountain foothills. Everybody today will see a mixture of clouds and sunshine with a fair amount of haze and smoke as well. Now let's talk about the wind. For today, wind is going to become a big story again as we get towards those later afternoon and evening hours. Winds today will gust up to around 25 miles per hour in the Tri-Cities as well as in Walla Walla. Gusts up to 30 miles per hour in Yakima today. Gusts up to 40 miles per hour in Pendleton, with gusts as high as 50 miles per hour through the Kittitas Valley for Ellensburg. Again, the strongest winds today will likely occur during the late afternoon and evening hours. By the time we get to tomorrow, winds are going to come down around the forecast area. Now, with the strong winds that we are expecting today, red flag warnings have been posted around the entirety, or I should say nearly the entirety of the viewing area, because the weather conditions have been so dry lately. There's already a couple big wildfires burning in the Cascades, and when you factor wind into that, any new or existing wildfires could get big very quickly. So today's one of those days that we really need to stay fire safe and stay fire aware. Of course, practicing fire safety so no new fires start, and staying fire aware because if any fires were to start near where you lived, with the winds how they're going to be during the late afternoon and evening time frame, you may be asked to evacuate. So that is something that we are keeping a close eye on today. And of course, there is already a fair amount of haze and smoke in our skies. That's going to be true for today and tomorrow. And in fact, I would venture to say haze and smoke will linger around until we get one of those big wetting rain events that will tamp down some of these fires. And with red flag warnings in place today, if any new fires were to start, those would just contribute to our haze and smoke concerns. Now, I did reference that tomorrow winds are going to turn light around the forecast area once again. High temperatures tomorrow are also going to be on the cooler side of things, only topping out in the low to mid 70s, and we will stay in the 70s even as we go into Saturday. Now let's talk about the traditional storm track or futurecast to talk about maybe some showers coming to the inland northwest. By the time we get to Monday, we are going to have some shower chances starting to encroach on our region, with more shower potential as we go into Tuesday. One note I will make, some weather models are painting Tuesday as wetter, some are painting Monday as wetter. At this point, I think there's just a chance of showers on both Monday and Tuesday, but of course we will refine the forecast accordingly as models come into better agreement. Right now, I'm going to toss it back over to Dave.
Thanks, Jefferson. The Washington State Patrol and the Traffic Safety Commission in the state are launching a special multi-state patrol this Friday in honor of fallen Trooper Christopher Gadd. Trooper Gadd was killed by an impaired driver in March 2024 while making what he called one more stop to protect his community. This is the second year the WSP has conducted these types of patrols in his honor.
He truly valued what we believe in, which is making our roadways safer. It was a passion of his to remove DUIs from our roadway. And even though he didn't work with us for very long, he did an excellent job doing so.
The One More Stop Emphasis Patrol was picked for this weekend in symbolism of Trooper Gadd's badge number 927. Officers in Washington, Oregon, and Idaho will be taking part. A new program in Ellensburg run by the police department is keeping the city graffiti-free with the help of some volunteers. KMA's John Franklin tells us more.
Essentially what we wanted to do is help out some of these property owners that are victims of crime, and they get these graffiti that goes on their fences and on their buildings, and we want to try to figure out a way that we can help them and eliminate that graffiti.
Planning for the graffiti abatement program has been underway for months, but volunteers finally put paint to wood and covered over a dozen graffiti damaged surfaces.
Really, it started taking off earlier this month, and at this point we have 13 properties that have been fixed.
The Ellensburg Police Department are not the only people that are helping out the graffiti abatement program. The paint is actually donated from a company in Moxie, and many local Rotarians actually come out to help clean up the graffiti and paint over it.
But really, it was just kind of the right timing for some of these organizations to come together and try to work on this and get some of this removed.
Captain Clasen hopes that the efficiency of the volunteers can help prevent these artists from spraying paint on other people's property.
One of the goals of this program is to deter these graffiti artists from doing it. If they know that this graffiti is going to get removed right away, hopefully that will deter them from damaging other people's properties.
Additionally, the program helps the victims clean up their property at no cost to them.
We didn't want the burden to be on the property owners because they're victims of crimes, and it's not really fair to them to have to pay for this. And so if we can get our community together to help them out is one of the goals of this program.
For Action News, I'm John Franklin.
KMA's John Franklin, thank you. And if you live in Ellensburg and find graffiti on your property, contact the police department. They can make a police report and set you up with volunteers to cover it up. Matterhorn Meats in Yakima closed its doors on July 31st after founder Fred Buccelli passed away in the spring. The market was seen as a signature business in the area around for 60 years. Locals consider it a one-of-a-kind location for meats and sausages.
They were here from the 60s, and they were really a specialty meat market, which provided a really special area of kind of a niche for our area and for some of our ranchers and farmers. So it's really sad to see that.
Buccelli's daughter, Siege, considered selling the business after her father's passing, but a good offer did not materialize. She says she hopes someone comes along and carries on the business that her father left behind. And a popular food hub in Kennewick is now expanding to Pasco. You may be familiar with the Summers Hub of Kennewick. It's also home of Brady's Brats and Burgers. Now they'll be expanding into Pasco with some of your favorite food trucks like Lucky Bao and Trejo Taco Factory. Of course, Brady's Brats and Burgers will be inside the hub. The owner of the Summers Hub of Kennewick says this new location is perfect.
No, the truth is I found it when I was taking Brady, my son, Brady's Brats and Burgers, to his soccer games right there next to the baseball stadium. And I just sat there in the heat, and it was the middle of summer, just sweating, thinking, man, this needs a spot to get out of the sun, and this would be a great spot for a hub.
Now on October 9th, a few trucks will be open at the new spot, and then on November 1st, they'll have the grand opening with a full hub. They're still looking for more food trucks, though. If you're interested, visit our website, KEPRtv.com. 2 roundabouts have recently opened in Yakima, sparking debate amongst drivers in the area and leaving many questioning the usage of the city's money. KIMA's Aidan Connor spoke with a city official on the city's desire to continue installing roundabouts.
The new roundabouts at the corners of 34th Avenue and River Road, as well as 72nd and Washington Avenues, were put into place as a safety measure.
So roundabouts are often put in place of signals because, one, they operate more efficiently because traffic doesn't have to stop. They also reduce the severity of accidents because typically accidents in a roundabout tend to be sideswipe accidents, and so they're property damage only.
The 2 corners were seen as prime locations for increased safety tactics.
But these locations provided an opportunity to have those benefits at each of those sites.
The city uses grant dollars in order to implement these roundabouts.
Roundabouts and many of our transportation projects are funded with grant dollars. So they're not using the general fund dollars that fund a lot of the other activities within the city, like police, fire, parks, and those kinds of things.
They see the use of government funds as efficient and not a large hit to the city's budget.
Is it a good use of taxpayer funds? I think it is, yes, because it's work that needs to be done, and it is not coming out of the city coffers directly, or at least very minimally.
The roundabouts may take some getting used to for local drivers. The city seems to have a positive outlook on the future of road safety at these locations. Reporting for Action News, I'm Aidan Connor.
KMA's Aidan Connor, thank you. And the roundabout at the corner of 72nd and Washington Avenue was opened 2 months ahead of schedule. For more information on the project, you can contact the City of Yakima Chief Engineer Dana Kelevig. And finally, the City of Yakima is partnering up with Habitat for Humanity to create an Adopt a Block program. Right now, there's only 1 volunteer, according to the website, and 3 blocks have been adopted. If you do adopt a block, you are responsible for it for the next 2 years and are recommended to clean it at least twice a year. More than 100 blocks are yet to be adopted, and you can find the locations over on our website. And that does it for us. Thank you for watching this episode of Keeper Quick. For more local news and weather, you can head over to our websites. It's Keeper and KIMATV.com, as well as our Facebook pages. But while you're here, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel to keep up with our latest mini newscasts Monday through Friday. Have a terrific Thursday, everybody.